Watch the movie. Watch the movie. Not the you movie. Hello world, Taryn here from Team Ginge. I thought it was about time that we started talking about the mom side of cosplay, because I am a mom. I'm the only mom on Team Ginge, so I figured this is what I should talk about. I mostly wanted to talk about going to cons with a kid, as I've now been to 2 cons with my son. The first one, he was only 6 months old, and the other one was a couple months after that. So definitely I've had some experience, and there's definitely some things that I wish I'd known before I went to a con. So hopefully if you are a mom cosplayer or dad cosplayer, or even just a parent who wants to take their kid to cons, hopefully this will help you out a little bit. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was accessibility. It wasn't really something I thought about before I went to a con. I brought the stroller to both cons because it's a lot easier when your baby can't walk to have something to put them in. So I got to each con and hadn't really thought about trying to find where the ramps were or anything. I had a couple situations where I was literally having friends help me carry the stroller up and down stairs because I couldn't be bothered to figure out where the ramp was. And at one point my wheel actually got caught going up a ramp, and it just was a terrible situation. Also maneuvering around crowds was a little bit annoying. The first con, it wasn't too bad because the con was spread over 3 days, and I went on the 2 days that were least busy, so I didn't have as much of a problem with that one. The second con was a 1-day con, so literally everybody who was going to be there was there. And I found myself not going to certain areas or certain stalls specifically because maneuvering the stroller was so difficult for me. So I found myself really being upset that I didn't bring the baby carrier. It's certainly something that I should have brought with me. I'll be honest, one of the main reasons I didn't was because I didn't want it to be on my cosplay. And, you know, if I'd thought it through a little bit more, I might have cosplayed as something that I could incorporate a baby carrier into. But, you know, in my big advice for if you're trying to go to a con with a stroller is maybe do some research on the venue first. Find out where the ramps are going to be, how accessible it's really going to be for you. Maybe bring a carrier with you. Maybe bring both the stroller and the carrier, and, you know, if you need to switch it off. Luckily, the next con I go to, my son should be walking, so that's going to be a whole new ball game of trying to not have him touch anything, but at least that'll maybe help out with the next one. So hopefully that's my 2 cents worth on that. So a big deal to me is having quiet areas that I can go and decompress, especially with a kid. I found the first con I went to, they had this nice little area off to the side where there were some couches you could sit on, and that's where I ended up sitting and nursing him when I needed to. But you know, that con, because he was only 6 months old, he slept in the stroller quite well, so I didn't have too much of an issue. That being said, that quiet area was in one of the main convention areas, so it wasn't really that quiet. The second con didn't really have a quiet space at all, so I found myself really struggling to find an area where he could calm down and just nap in his stroller or nurse. It was very frustrating to me to not have a quiet area, and I really wish I had planned one out, maybe even planned to go to the car. At that con, the cosplay prejudging was right first thing in the morning, and the actual cosplay contest was at the end of the day. So it resulted in us being there for an entire day, and we didn't really have a very good quiet area to go to with him. So that's another thing about doing your research on the venue. If I'd done more research on where the quiet areas of that con were going to be, I probably would have had a better time with it. So food. The cons I went to with Damien, the first one, he wasn't eating solid foods yet, so it was all about the nursing. I really wish I hadn't gone as Poison Ivy for one of the days because I was wearing a corset. And you haven't lived until you've had to undo your whole corset to nurse your baby in public. I did pump a bottle for him that day, so he have a bottle to drink, and he finished that so quickly, and I had no choice but to sit on a couch. Luckily, I had my nursing cover with me because I'm pretty uncomfortable just whipping my boobs out in public, and I am not against women who do that. I'm just against me doing it because I'm not comfortable with it. So it was pretty interesting to sit on a couch next to some, guys and just, putting the cover on and undoing my whole corset right beside them and really hoping nobody would say anything. Luckily, nobody did because, the cosplay community and the con community are amazing and aren't dicks like that most of the time. But anyways, so the second con, he was on solid foods as well as breast milk, but I didn't think to bring any snacks for him. So we had this entire day where he was just on breast milk, and I didn't have any solid snacks for him, which he was getting used to. So he was already fussy from all the crowds and everything. And on top of that, he wasn't getting the snacks and foods that he wanted. I guess I just kind of assumed that there would be something there for me to buy for him, and there wasn't. So that's one thing is, if you're like my mom, pack lots of snacks because that's really what you should be doing. If your kid is picky as well, mine's not currently, but I know he probably will be in the future. Bring stuff you'll know he'll like or they'll like, because then they're going to be eating, and a hungry baby is a fussy baby. So yeah. So the first con I went to with Damien, we didn't really do any fancy costumes for him. The first costume I put him in was literally just a Superman onesie underneath a suit and opened up, so it looked like he was just changing into Superman, which I thought was adorable. The second one, I just put him in a Batman onesie, so he matched my Poison Ivy. It wasn't anything fancy. So he didn't get a lot of attention at the first con we went to. That was a completely different story at the second con. We put him in a Robin costume, partially because I accidentally named him after Robin, because his name is Damian Richard, so, but we did do a full Robin costume, and we also thought how great it would be for everyone to be able to see him in this costume. So we had the stroller facing outwards, because I have one of those strollers you can turn around. We had him facing outwards towards everyone so everyone could see this. Now, that was a great thing at the beginning because he really likes attention, and there was a lot of people wanting to give him attention and take pictures of him and say, oh, how cute, and everything like that, which was great at the beginning, until we got about an hour or two in and all the attention started to become very overwhelming for him. I hadn't even thought about how dressing my kid in a really cute costume might cause the fussiness that I was really terrified of. I was lucky I was able to turn the stroller around when he was getting really fussy and cover it up a little bit so nobody could really see him. That was really helpful. I think I did that a little later than I probably should have, and it caused a really rough experience for him. So that was a little rough for me, but the other situation I had is I had him in a cosplay in the park event, and I had him in that costume again, and I had people wanting to take pictures with him, which I'm fine with, but I had some people who wanted to just pick him up, which was really uncomfortable for me. And anybody who's watching this who's not a parent and wants to take pictures with somebody's kid, first of all, ask. Second of all, don't touch the kid without permission, because I had a lady almost actually pick him up, and I had to straight up say, no, don't do that, and make up an excuse of, he doesn't like other people picking him up, but really it's like, it should be a given that you don't pick up somebody else's kid. So just be aware of that. If you're going to be dressing your kid in costumes and stuff, make sure they're the type of kid who wants the attention and enjoys the attention, because if you have a lot of people taking pictures of your kid and you have a lot of people going, oh, how cute, and wanting to touch them and talk to them and that kind of thing, just be really aware of your kid's demeanor and how they respond to things like that, because it can be really overwhelming for a tiny human to deal with all of that. So I know it's overwhelming for some adults to deal with all of that type of attention. So just be careful with that. If your kid is not the type to want lots of attention, either don't dress them up as something adorable, Or make sure you have a stroller that the baby can face you in so that you can really control who sees them. So one of the big things that a lot of people go to cons for are the panels. That's something I was actually a little too scared to go into any of them with Damien. Um, I was really worried that he was going to cry and get a lot of people upset that I brought a baby into a panel. So I didn't actually go into any of them with him. There was one night where I did go to a performance without him when he stayed home with his dad. But I was definitely really scared of that. The one time he did go into the auditorium to see something was when I was in the cosplay contest, and my husband brought him in to watch it because I was going to be walking across the stage, and every single time the crowd cheered, he cried. So one thing I really wish I'd thought of was to bring some kind of ear protection for him, like earmuffs or something. Because I feel like that would have helped because the noise level just really affected him. The same thing actually happened when I took him to the Pride Parade because everyone was cheering and there was lots of loud music and stuff and so much stimulus, and he just shut down and got really fussy and cried. He overcame that at the parade, but not at the con, and I think that was partially because he was already tired and fussy. So I don't really know if I will bring him into panels until he's a little bit older. I think it's, if you do really want to go to a panel, if that's what you're really going to a con for, a good idea if you have a small child would be to have somebody else there who maybe doesn't want to see that panel and would be willing to watch your child during that time. I try and be as respectful as possible, but the fact that nobody really wants to hear my kid cry. So I don't really think it would be fair for me to bring him in to a panel when people are trying to talk and have him screaming at that time. So yeah, definitely if you can bring somebody with you who's willing to watch your kid while you go and watch a panel, or even if you have somebody willing to babysit and keep the kid at home, I think that would be the best way to do it. That's the way I will probably do it if there's ever a panel I really, really want to see. So yeah. I don't think I would have survived any of the cons I went to without the people who came with me. I had multiple different members of Team Ginge have helped me out at cons. The first con I went to, Georgia was there every single day with me, and Krista was there for one of the days as well as my husband was there for one of the days. And that was amazing. It was great to have people who, if I wanted to go look at a stall that I couldn't get to with the stroller, they were willing to stand there and watch him. And that kind of thing. The second con I had, all of Team Ginge was there, and also my husband, so I had a lot of support there. Again, it was really great if I wanted to go and look at something and I couldn't get the stroller through. I had multiple people who were willing to watch him. I also, at that con, I was cosplaying as Nora, so I had the big hammer, which made it almost impossible for me to push the stroller myself, so my husband was a saint. And also I was wearing a white shirt, and Damien had black makeup on his face for his Robin mask, so a lot of the time my husband was holding him, or I had to zip up my black jacket over top to make sure that I didn't get black stuff on my white shirt before the contest. So, I mean, without the people who were around me, I probably wouldn't have gone to a con, because I don't think I would have survived it without them. My son ended up actually napping on my husband's shoulder, because we hadn't planned for a place for him to nap or a time for him to nap. So which is another thing you should always do. But yeah, he ended up just napping on my husband's shoulder, which was adorable and amazing. But yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go anywhere in public, really, with your kid, having a support system with you is a big deal, because I don't think there would be any way for me to survive with all these people. I mean, Krista is almost over on a daily basis helping me take care of Damien. So, I mean, in any situation with a kid, maybe make sure you have those extra people around you to help out. So, all in all, I definitely encourage you to still bring your kids to cons, even though it is a daunting task. It's definitely the type of environment that I want my kids to grow up in, because it's just an amazing community. The people there are awesome. It's great to be able to dress your kids up in cute costumes. But also, I feel like my generation is more the people who are going to cons now. We're the ones who grew up when media was really accelerating, when you started to be able to watch things on any device, anywhere, that kind of thing. So we're the ones who've really started to get into all of the nerdy shows, and we grew up with comics and all that other fun stuff. So now that my generation is having kids, I think that cons are going to have to start adapting to it. I think you're going to probably start to see in the future, if the cons are smart, I think you're going to start to see more kid-friendly situations. At least I'm hoping you will, because really we're the generation that's going there now. And the next generation is going to grow up with them. So it's going to hopefully change the entire way things are done, so that you're going to probably, hopefully, see more quiet spaces. One thing I really suggest is that when you go to a con, every once in a while, at least some of them will send you a survey afterwards, and say, how did we do? What can we change? How can we make your con experience better? If you are a parent, fill those out. Tell them how they can make it easier for you. Tell them there was no quiet space for you to go and sit with your kid. Even if you're not a parent and you just need a quiet space to decompress, tell them about that. If you want more areas where you can go and nurse, if you want to maybe not have a cosplay prejudging at the beginning of the day and a cosplay contest at the end of the day, tell them that. Tell them your opinions. You can make cons better by just giving the feedback that they need. Anyways, that's me. I hope this advice was helpful for you. Bye!